Okay, we're here.
Great.
Episode
Welcome back. Episode
7 of 8.
7 of 8. Okay. Well,
Do you feel like it's gone fast? Because I do.
yeah, it feels like it's gone very fast. I 8 felt like a long.
Oh, your sound has gone. Why is
Oh,
that?
really? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you for some
You
reason.
can't, you can't
Oh,
hear me?
now I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now. That's
Okay, cool.
probably my
Um,
end.
yeah, 7, 7, 8. Sorry, seemed like a really long, large stretch of conversation to like pilot. Right? We're like, oh, let's try it out. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
Seemed like a lot, and if this is number 7, it's gone very fast.
yeah, yeah. And so people would. Okay, so at school today, I found out people were joining just as we were signing off last week. Like this, I don't know if it's a teenager's sense of timing. Like we say 8 p.m., we're a bit late today, but 8 p.m. isn't 9, whatever, 9:30.
Yeah.
People have rewatched it. So this is episode 7 of Jordan Dots Forward. I've actually got it with me.
Has Great. Has anyone joined us today?
I will check.
It
That's a
doesn't matter.
solid Tash. Oscar's here. He's
Hi,
the next
Oscar.
pupil. I think he means you rather than me. I just look kind of normal with a Tash.
You look totally normal with a tash. I
Pretty
I
standard behaviour.
I mean, if you don't know me, you might think I look normal, but it's a little
Gangs of
thicker,
New York, right
little
there.
thicker on this side. It's a little pointier on that side. Didn't realize that. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, Oscar and anyone else that happens to watch this later, 8 o'clock is the time that James and I get on the call, and then it might take us a couple of minutes to sort ourselves out before we go live. Just FYI.
Yeah. And today's theme is men.
Okay.
And we both are fans. Are we fans? Would you call us Tim Ferriss fans? I suppose we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, fans of Tim Ferriss. I've talked to some of my pupils
I'm a
about
fan
him
of Tim
before.
Ferriss. I think he's great. I think he puts out a lot of good content.
Yeah,
I think actually let me rephrase that. I think probably all of the content that he puts out is at least good.
yeah,
Some of it is great,
yeah.
and there are a few bits that are really exceptional. Maybe even more than a few.
Which is a really impressive thing when you think about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's put much out that's bad.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things that I drew us together. The you suggesting the 4 Hour Body to me and me going, that sounds like a load of twaddle, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
And then I bought the book and tried it out, and it worked quite
Yeah.
shockingly. And I still practice a lot of the ideas in there. So he has a newsletter, and this quotation, whatever you want to say, was in the newsletter. So I think it's a good place to start with talking about men and maybe the way men behave. The
Yeah.
largest part of what we call personality is determined by how we've opted to defend ourselves against anxiety and sadness. So I saw that in the newsletter, and you happened to send it to me, and you referenced last week's episode.
Yeah. We talked a lot, not about that quote specifically, but about that kind of topic. Seemed apropos our conversation.
Yeah, so the thing I didn't know that I found out later, that you mentioned 3 out of 4 suicides are men, and then I came up with or discovered 2 facts that I was talking about with a couple of students today, actually, and I showed them to one of my classes, that on average, if you average out across the year, it's 6 men per day diagnosed with testicular cancer. And that's diagnosed. And testicular cancer, very treatable. and recovery rates are very good. And I contrast that with every day, it works out on average 17 men in the UK commit suicide.
Wow.
That's like not diagnosed, not able to be treated for something. That's gone.
Yeah.
Lives gone, men's lives gone. And that's why I wanted to bring up this topic. It's close to my heart. And I think as a dad thinking about raising a son, I'm sure it's something you think about maybe a lot more than you had. What is the state of men and masculinity? What does it mean to be a man? Is the question I posed in 2019 at my school. But that's kind of what I'd want to ask you. What do you say, Adam? What do you think it means to be a man?
You know, I don't dwell on that question much.
Yeah.
But what I think I might do more than the average person is engage in a conversation about it.
Yeah.
You know, like you and I talk about it, you know, our circle of friends will talk about being a guy, masculinity, you know, what's beyond the stereotypes, what's beyond the cliches, you know, and um, including calling each other out on um, when we are the cliches, misogynistic, or just small things like making jokes at the expense of women, or like literally like telling a joke that is at the expense of women, or at the expense of the stereotype of women, and we might call each other out on that. You know, I think it happened like 2 weeks ago or something. One of our friends, you know, posted a video that was, you know, somewhat misogynistic to a WhatsApp group that we're in, and I said, you know, it's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to belittle women. I don't think that's really what being a guy is about.
Mm. Mm. That passed me by. Probably because when I looked at the WhatsApp group, there was like loads of messages.
Yeah, I mean, you know, working from home and being a mostly full-time dad means I do have time to pick up the WhatsApp messages during the day, as opposed to like bundling them all into like the 4 p.m. slot.
That does happen. But this,
Kids are
I
gone.
was,
Check WhatsApp.
I was talking. It's funny to talk about this whole joking thing. I was talking to my form today about jokes, and jokes are there to make us laugh, but sometimes jokes can reinforce a stereotype or reinforce a power dynamic.
Yeah,
So, telling jokes about women, if men are telling jokes about women, that's reinforcing the stereotype or the views of women. So, any kind of prejudice, jokes do that.
yeah,
But I think jokes can also highlight and point things out. Some comedians are great at that. It's a
yeah.
very, I think it's a very difficult thing to do.
It's a way of telling a difficult truth or shining a light on something that you don't tend to look at with the same kind of, I don't know, with the same eye, maybe, you know, or the same clarity.
And that's even the jokes about men. Like
Who would be the comedians that you'd pick out in that?
Dave Chappelle,
Okay.
seen him live, very good. Russell Brand, when he was doing stand up, I think he's an interesting character. I think because he's I think he's really evolved in a really interesting way.
I hope so, because, and you're not the first person to say that, but I really didn't like him, and I didn't like his stand up, and I found him. No, let me turn that round. I was going to say I find him repulsive. That's not
Wow.
true.
Yeah.
I find myself repulsed,
Right.
like in a very kind of literal sense of that word. Like, oh, don't want to be around. Don't
Wow.
want to engage in that. Like,
Okay.
I couldn't tolerate it.
Right.
And that's not to say that he wasn't funny or that there's anything like gross about him in any way. I didn't fit with the humor that he was providing. And I think he's done an awesomely good job with dealing with health and addiction and all sorts of things. And he's become a much more interesting guy that I'm much more happy and willing to listen to at this point, because I think he has evolved, even though he's not someone that I particularly seek out to listen to.
Yeah, I haven't sought him out recently. I've seen his stand-up. I thought it was very good, but he's doing less of that, and he's doing more stuff on YouTube. He's doing podcasts. His book about dealing with addiction, I thought, was very, very interesting. Dean and I listened to that in the car when I think he might have been on a road trip in another country when we were listening to it. But he's like, one of our mutual friends was telling me that he now practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a way of connecting himself with his body. So we were talking about that last week, about martial arts.
Yeah.
And not as a way of dominating, asserting power, those traditional kind of male values, but as a way of exploring. Sorry?
Being tough.
Yeah, being tough. Not as a way of being tough, but more as an exploration. And when, certainly from what I know about any kind of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff, when you get to explore, I think it might be when you explore anything to a deep level, you start to realize it's an exploration of yourself. I'm finding that with guitar. I find that with writing, or collaging. It becomes an exploration of who I am as much as the activity itself.
Mm.
And he's a very interesting character. I haven't looked at. I know there's a couple of my colleagues who think he's great.
That's pretty interesting from a neurological standpoint. Oh, I didn't tell you. So the new course that I have been doing, which is the neurology of movement, I'm now certified.
Oh wow!
I have my first actual certification as of today, in fact.
And you had to get 100% to get that?
On 4 assessment exams, online exams.
High standards. I like it.
Yeah, it's very high standard, and you could take it as many times as you wanted, but you had to get 100%. And
the phrase,
really good for me, because I didn't get all the questions right each time. There were things that were really difficult. And I have another friend, also James, who has done the same certifications, but from about 3, 4, 5 years ago. So he's 5 years further down the line than I am. And I was messaging him and sending him the questions and going like, I have no idea. I do not remember this being talked about in the course. And you'd have a question like, an athlete is presenting with these, symptoms or, whatever, not necessarily symptoms, but whatever, like which would be the most, which would be the most appropriate action to take, thinking from this theory, or which might be opposing joints, right? Like your right wrist with your left ankle, right? There's a connection between them neurologically, right? So like they're presenting with a left knee, what would be the most appropriate thing to do given that plus something else? And then it'd be like this, and I'd look at it and be like, I have no idea. I don't remember that being talked about in the course. And then I'd send it to him, and he'd be like, well, if it were me, I'd do this, but it's not one of the options for you. Like, I don't know.
Now that really forces you to think for yourself about it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I thought the online assessment that they've developed for this, because originally they wouldn't do it. They'd certify you if you were attending live in a course, and you wouldn't do an online assessment. And for the most part, I think it was very good. It did make you think. It did make me review the material both in my mind and in the manual and everything. Like I had to work to come up with the answers, and I think I've got a better understanding of the material for doing it. And it was like, it wasn't high stakes insofar as I couldn't fail. I could not pass it, but I couldn't fail. I just have to go back and do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And the phrase you used last week was no movement, no brain.
Yeah.
All right. That way
Yeah.
around. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right way around.
Yeah. If you're not going to move, you don't need a brain.
Mm.
Like there's nothing out there in the world that moves that has a brain. That doesn't have a brain.
Yeah. That doesn't have a brain.
Yeah.
Now, how
Things
does that
grow.
link?
Things grow, like grass grows, trees grow. That's different to moving independently through the world.
So this whole thing about neurology, and how does that link to what I said about like playing guitar or doing martial arts becomes an exploration of
No,
myself?
it wasn't that. God, now we've got to
Wasn't?
find a link. It was something that you said about martial arts being a way of exploring
Myself. That's what I said.
yourself. Yeah, but it wasn't quite that. It was.
So I said it's not about being. You said it's not about being. It's not about toughness or those male values. Practicing something, and as I was talking about, oh yeah, doing martial arts has allowed me to explore myself. And then I realized, hang on, it's the same with playing guitar or
Yeah.
writing.
No, it wasn't that. It was before that. I think it was when you were talking about Russell Brand, that he was doing martial arts as a way of exploring something. But there was something you said. I'll have to go back and watch this video.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was about. I can't quite tie it with exactly what you said.
Yep.
I can connect it with what I thought, what it made me think of. Which so the brain how the brain works is basically use it or lose it, right? If you don't, right, like in terms of everything, if you don't use your left eye, your brain will
prune
the neural connections for your left eye and will dedicate that space to something else, probably your right eye in this case, right? It's use it or lose it.
Wow.
And that includes like range of motion. So if you never put your arm further than this, like up to your ear, your brain will go, okay, well, that's not an important range. Now, it might happen because you have an injury or whatever, but that your brain goes, oh, don't go there, it's not safe. But that's by the by. Then it starts to prune away again, right? You're not using it. I'm going to use it for something else. And you get stuck in a track of, oh, I have to do it this way. And one of the big principles, I guess, of this training that I'm doing at the moment is re-exploring the full range. So it might be re-exploring a range of movement that you don't have.
Okay.
The route to it is activating a part of the brain that might be being underused at that moment. That when it gets that stimulation of newness, it then allows for a greater range of movement, for instance. Or it might be just letting the body know, like, oh, you don't do this with your knee, but we can do that. We can do it slowly. We can do it carefully. We can, take you through that range of motion and explore that range of motion and go, oh, okay, it's okay to do that again. I don't have to restrict that movement. And you can explore that full range. And then the brain starts making new connections. And what you were talking about was exploring in a slightly different way, but it has the same, it more or less has the same effect on the brain.
Well, it has the same sense of, I like what you're saying about exploration, but what you're saying flips it. Instead of starting with the body, you start with the brain.
Well, you could also start with the body. You could start with them. You could start with it does really start with the body. It starts with the body because the body is really where the brain gets its inputs from. Whether it's from tactile touch or sight or sound or movement or whatever. It starts with the body moving through the world in a particular way that engages the brain in a particular way.
Well, that makes sense. That chimes with what I was saying last week about martial arts, but also with chimes with guitar
Yeah.
and having to. I still remember the experience of playing guitar and my fingers just not doing what I wanted them to. And I've seen people progress in their guitar playing, and I'll play something, and they can't get their fingers to do it, and then you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and then suddenly it
Yeah.
comes together.
Yeah.
But that's why in Brain Rules by John Medina, he talks about one of the things that makes us happy is having friends.
Mhm.
So everyone wants to be happy. One of the things that makes us happy is having friends. One of the things that allows us to maintain friendships is understanding non-verbal cues, non-verbal communication. And for some reason, playing and learning to play a musical instrument enhances our ability to be able to understand and read non-verbal cues. So learning to play an instrument can make you happy. That's the basic idea, one of the ideas in the book. I love that book because he's an evolutionary neurobiologist, I think he says, and the
Mhm.
only studies that he puts in the book are double blind tested. So he's not put anything there. It's not been peer reviewed, double blind tested, and he simplified it and I think that book is great. So but that's one of the things that stuck out for me. And I did wonder, going back when I was young, how the hours I spent at home not going out as a teenager and playing guitar. I wonder if that had any. It must have had some kind of neurological effect,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know what it did.
Yeah.
There's no way of knowing. But well, I don't know. Maybe there is a way of knowing. But I think that's one of the things that stuck out in that book, and I think that book is great. And just listening to you has really and doing the figure of eight stuff has really made me think
Yeah. Yeah.
about, oh, what's experimenting, testing, and then retesting and doing something, and how do I move? How am I moving? Or the other thing you said about shoulders, like,
What do they say about shoulders?
so I said that sometimes I'll bump my left shoulder. It's always my left shoulder on something,
Mhm.
and then you said like scratch, rub your shoulder area as a way of actually noticing it, and I'm like, oh yeah, just doing that really does make you more aware of it.
Yeah.
But the other thing that will make you more aware of my shoulder is if someone's trying to bend my arm back because they're on top of me. That will
Yeah.
make me very aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then it is. I also really like what you said about a way of moving through the world. How it starts with our bodies and how we move through the world.
Mm.
Really interesting idea. And I think that I'm reminded of the body keeps the score.
It's on my bookshelf somewhere.
And you're reading that other book, The
Yeah.
Brain That Changed Itself. Have you been reading it or?
Yeah, I've been reading it. It's still a bit tricky for me to find as much time to read and study and everything as I'd like, as on top of everything else. I've probably got, I don't know, 80 or 100 pages left. So I've probably got another couple of hours of reading.
In that book or something else?
No, in that book, the Brain That Changed Itself.
Okay.
Probably got another 100 pages, maybe. I forget.
Is it an easy read? Because
it's a very easy read.
okay.
It's not technical in any way, and it's awesome. I'm really
Okay.
enjoying it.
Okay, I'll need to read that
Yeah.
for sure. I don't think I've bought it yet, but I'm reading a bunch of other books at the same time. So
Yeah.
but let's loop back to men, because I think, do you think men's brains have to be different to women's brains? Pure opinion.
In what respect?
I'm drawing a very tenuous link between the way we move through the world influences our brains. The way men move through the world, in perhaps every sense of the word, is different from the way women move through the world.
I think that men and women are different.
Mm-hmm. Some people think that's controversial.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I have 3.5, nearly 4-year-old boy, and my brother has a nearly 4-year-old girl. They're 2 months apart.
Mhm.
She'll be 4 in December, and he'll be 4 in February. Right, so they're 2 months apart.
Mm.
Now, if you look at them play, they play in totally different ways. He wants to. His favorite thing, you know this, right? His favorite thing
Yeah.
in the world is steam trains.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wants to go to see the steam trains. He plays with train track. He plays with, like today. He's like, Daddy, the house is now a pretend train. Come and see the hitch. I was like, okay, come and see the hitch. You know the metal,
hitch?
yeah, the hitch. You know, like where the train and the carriages connect, hitch together, right?
Yeah.
Where they get coupled together. It's probably like whatever. So he runs out of the kitchen, and I follow him, and he takes me to the living room and to the doorway into the hall.
Mm-hmm.
You know the carpet stays, the metal strip that you get in the door.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the hitch. And then he shows me how you have to like climb over it, right, without falling into the gap.
Okay.
Right, and taking these big steps. Yeah. Right. Brilliant. Anyway, like that's his favorite thing, right? So he plays that. He plays like rough and tumble.
Yeah.
Jumping, running, forward rolls, flipping himself all over the place. He'll jump down. He's not 4 years old yet. He'll jump down 5 steps, 5 stairs on his own. 6 maybe. Definitely.
I mean, because we used to do stair jumping when I was about like 8, 7. We see how many stairs we could jump down.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Yeah. He'll launch himself off like the 10th step, like at the top, if I'll catch him. And he'll just like.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah. But off the 5th or 6th, I forget which one he's done. Off the 5th or 6th step, he'll jump and he'll land on his own. Right? He'll jump off the kitchen counter.
Okay, that's pretty high.
Yeah, it's above his head. He's, like imagine jumping from above your head height. Like it's a pretty big jump.
Well, yeah.
It'd be like jumping from the top of the doorway or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I'm looking at my doorway.
Right. Anyway, that's him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She plays a lot of like pretending to be people. Like she'll pretend to be her dad, and her dad has to pretend to be the mum, and the mum has to pretend to be someone else, and she'll do that with her dolls and her toys, and she'll make meals and have a little dinner together, and they do a lot of stories and reading, and like she does stories and she does reading and like reads to her dolls and whatever. Like they play in very, very, very different ways. Always have. Go back a year, he'd like take his plate off the table and be like, oh, this is interesting. What does it sound like? From like 18 months old, she'd been eating off of china plates.
Okay.
She's incredibly like delicate and, she's not going to go. She just doesn't do it, right? Now, like we could get into a whole like nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
Right. And for sure, I nurture a certain rough and tumble kind of play, and I kind of encourage it. And my brother and his partner, they don't. Not in the same way, at least. I'm not saying they don't do it at all, but certainly not in the same way that I do. Not wanting to get into that, like it's very common to see boys play in one particular way and girls play in another way. Now, is it the way that boys are nurtured versus the way that girls are nurtured? Maybe. Could that be different? Maybe. but they are nurtured in a particular way. Like that does happen. And so even if their brains are the same at birth or prior to birth, their brains are different. They branch apart very early and very quickly.
Yeah.
And are then different.
Yeah. Which makes sense from an evolutionary point of view. It makes sense for how we move through the world, like what you've been saying before. It's really interesting. You're reminding me of another book.
Can I add a caveat to this? Like, even though I think that guys and girls are the same, I'm for equality. I'm for equality. Like, do I think that a woman who chooses to be in business should be paid less than a guy? No way. Like, if she wants to work and earn, she should absolutely be paid the same. I'm for that. And I also want to embrace that guys and girls are different.
Yeah.
Like, though both those things can and should be compatible with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And
given this is going to be out in the public domain, I want to be on record.
Yeah.
Saying that,
Yeah, the same but different.
Yeah.
So what you reminded me of in talking about your son is have you read any Steve Biddle, Australian psychologist? He wrote Raising Boys.
Right. I know the name, I know the book, but I've not read it.
Yeah, he wrote Raising Boys, and I think he wrote Manhood as well. One of our mutual friends recommended Manhood to me. I read those books, and one of the things he says in Raising Boys is rough and tumble is important for boys to learn their limits, to learn their physical limits, to learn what's going on for them.
Yeah.
Now, leaving aside the whole nature nurture thing, like you said, but from it, and his book was great. I really, really enjoyed it. And whenever my nephews come over, and whenever my nephews are growing up, my brother-in-law, so my wife's younger brother, and my wife's cousin, the way we would interact with them is very rough and tumble. It's very and that's part, like, sometimes my wife would be like, "What are you doing? Oh my God." I'm like, "It's fine. They're fine. It's fine." It's, the moment it got out of hand, or like, they're pushing limits with each other or with me, I'll be like, "No, that doesn't work. Stop." You don't like, I don't know, kick me in the head.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. But they learn the limits. And sometimes Davina would say to me, "You're horrible to them." I'm like, "No, I'm not." They're very clear, kind of, they know where the boundaries are, because at the same time, they absolutely think I'm great.
Yeah.
Get on with them like a house on fire. Like, when we spoke to them last time over the phone, my younger nephew ran to the phone and was like, "Oh, I want to show Uncle James something." And he shows me his Transformer and goes through this in-depth explanation about Transformers. And all I'm doing most of the time is giving him my 100% attention. Unless I'm doing something else, in which case I'll say, "No, I'm not. I'm doing this. Now I'll talk to you." And he loves it. They love it. Young people love that. But that book talks about Raising Boys, talks about the importance of rough and tumble and exploring limits, and talks about the importance of rituals and how much the movement from being a boy to being a man doesn't exist as much in modern society. And
it's a way of playing. Stuart, oh God, I forget his name. Stuart Brown, who wrote Play.
Yeah.
He talks about that as well.
There's some very profound ideas about being a man. Now, the other interesting thing is the way my wife's cousins and brother-in-law will interact with my nephews starts to reinforce some of the stereotypes. Like, punch my hand. How hard can you punch? Like that kind of stuff. And I remember doing that when I was a kid with my uncle, although my sister wouldn't join just as much as I did.
I had a teacher when I was 10, 11 years old, who at the end of the day, the ritual at least in that class, I don't know about in the whole school, but in his class, the ritual at the end of the day was you said goodbye to the teacher at the door and you shook his hand, right, as you left. And there were a group of us, let's say like 5 or 6 of us boys,
Yeah.
right, who he would let punch him in the stomach, right?
Okay.
We'd have to complete the ritual of saying, goodbye, goodbye, Mr. Cook, right? Shake his hand and be like,
Yeah.
"Can I hit you, sir?" Like, and he'd like brace himself, and we like hit him as hard as we could. And he was a strong guy, right? And he'd just take it, But there were like 5 or 6 of us or something like that who he'd let do that. Just like hit my hand.
There is, but that kind of thing does happen. And then I've just remembered another really interesting thing is they were playing football. I wasn't there. They were playing in the park, and I think it was my wife's cousin kicked the ball pretty hard, and it hit my older nephew, who's like 10 now. Like it hit him in the face or it hit him somewhere, something. Yeah. I think it was the face. And my wife's cousin's reaction when he was telling us about it was like, "You wanted to cry. You wanted to cry. You would try really hard not to cry." Like as if to say, like, you shouldn't be crying. Like, don't cry. You don't cry. You just got to hit the ball. It's the ball. And I really couldn't help but think, and I spoke to my wife about it afterwards, like, what's that telling him? What's that telling him about like feeling pain? What's like, and of course, it's loads and loads and loads of those interactions that leads to the ridiculous misogyny I sometimes hear from teenage boys at school.
Yeah.
Or that kind of like wanting to be tough and not show any kind of emotion. Like, oh God, I think I've told you this story. This is a few years ago. It was at a Leavers ball, and these are 18-year-olds. They're about to go to uni, and one of them talks about a body count. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Body count. Body count meaning how many girls have you slept with? That's a body count.
Mm.
Like, I'd never heard that before. I was horrified. I was horrified when I heard that, and I think it plays into the whole computer game thing of playing Call of Duty and like kill streak and body count. I think, I don't know if that's where it comes from, but I couldn't believe. I was like, am I really hearing this?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of world that young men inhabit. And I like to, and I've started to make a thing about being emotionally aware and having emotionally aware teachers, and it being okay to be okay, it being okay to be okay with being upset or sad. And it isn't just about, it's okay to be angry.
Do you mean for the person who is upset or sad to be okay with being upset or sad? Or do you mean for instance, their parents to be okay with their child being upset or sad?
I wasn't even thinking of the parents. I was thinking of the individual being okay with being upset and being okay with being upset.
Right.
And then other people knowing that, well, pupils being okay with, oh, okay, he's upset. Like, what's going on? Listen.
Yeah.
Never mind the parents. Because, I think, because I don't have children, I do think of things in terms of my nephews.
Yeah.
What's the world they're growing up in? What are they going to be like when they're 16?
Yeah.
My 10-year-old, 11-year-old nephew is apparently amazing at Call of Duty, the computer game. He's amazing at it. And that's a rated 18 game, and he's playing it. Like, okay. I don't feel, I'm not comfortable with that. But there's,
I don't know, that sort of thing didn't even exist when, when we were growing up. A game rated 18, it's like, what, Legend of Zelda?
Hyper real, being able to do ridiculous things, shoot people, whatever. No,
it wasn't a thing. Like we'd only just got, there was a really interesting book that I read about the history of video games. I read it years and years ago, Joystick Nation by, I want to say it's J.C. Hertz. I could be wrong, but it's definitely called Joystick Nation. and it talks about how the evolution of video games, like
From
from the
Pong.
very first video game, from Pong, right?
We went to that exhibition together at the Barbican.
Yeah. So first of all, there were things like Pong, and I can't remember if the very first one was back and forth to two paddles, or if the first one was like the disappearing blocks where you'd go across the bottom. I can't remember exactly.
Breakout, that one, wasn't it? Breakout.
I forget. I think it was probably Pong with the two paddles. Actually,
Yeah.
the first one, if my memory's right. But at some point, and I think it was Space Invaders. They the moment you put a spaceship there, as opposed to a rectangle, it implies a person. Certainly did in the 19
Wow. Yeah, it does.
70s or 80s.
It does. Yeah.
Right. It implies a person, and the moment you put a person there, they need to have a reason for being there.
Yeah.
And that reason was saving the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And from that moment on, like, there was the evolution of stories in video games.
Oh man, I need to read that book too. Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
And so, but that book's quite old, presumably.
Oh yeah, I read that in the 1990s. I must have read it. I think I read it for an essay that I wrote for my GCSEs or A levels or something. So I read it in the 90s.
Oh wow. Oscar says that something is a banging game. I don't know if he means Call of Duty or Space Invaders. He might mean Space Invaders.
Definitely.
That's I think that I'm definitely I'm gonna find. I already find that idea fascinating. The whole story thing.
Yeah.
The reason for being. Oh my god, I'm really impressed with that. But like Minecraft is huge. I love Minecraft, and that's like a throwback game with 8-bit graphics.
Did you send me that article the other day about Minecraft in the context of lockdown being the one of the best things that you can do for mental health during lockdown?
I did find an article about computer games in lockdown actually helping mental health, and maybe
I've seen 2 articles like that this week.
It might have been.
There must have been some report that came out, or some piece of research, or something.
I don't tend to forward things if I haven't read it.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't read it. There was something. There's something in
know.
Wired magazine about it. I'm pretty sure.
I'm just having a look to see if I can see
Oscar
it.
is referring to Space Invaders
in one of our YouTube, in one of our WhatsApp groups. Yeah. So here's one. It was from SCMP, South China Morning Press. The title was "How Playing Video Games Can Help You Through Quarantine." And then the other one that somebody else sent in the same group was from The Guardian. Video games can improve mental health. Let's stop seeing them as a guilty pleasure.
I saw something, I'm pretty sure something in Wired and in Mind's Journals. I really like Mind Journals weekly newsletter.
That one was from Guido. Guido sent that one.
Oh, did he? Okay.
And then the other one.
Oscar was referring to Space Invaders. I am shocked. I apologize for judging all teenagers saying they all love COD. It's possible to appreciate greatness like Space Invaders.
Yeah.
But I have got a couple of things to read about computer games and how they can improve mental health. I think because my dad used to limit how much I could play computer games because he saw a change in my behavior. So I was like, I couldn't play computer games for longer than 45 minutes. And then it became, if I didn't play on one day, I could play a game for 90 minutes to a maximum of 90 minutes.
What was the behavior change?
So I had one of those Nintendo Donkey Kong things.
Oh, the flip.
No, I had the flip one, which I've still got.
With the
Still
dual
got it.
screen? Dual screen?
Yes. Yeah, with the buttons. Donkey Kong, where you jump up and yeah, that one.
Yeah. You know, that was a
I've
typo.
got
That was supposed to be called Monkey Kong.
No, I didn't know that either. Is that in Joystick Nation?
Can't remember.
Okay.
Pick that little tidbit of information up somewhere along the way.
Oh my God, that's awesome. But no, it was a single
Makes more
screen
sense
one.
though, right? Monkey
It makes
Kong?
it makes complete sense.
Like
I had
donkey? Really?
the single screen one, which was Donkey Kong Jr. I don't know if you
Yes.
knew that one.
Yes.
The things along the bottom, you had to jump
Yes.
them. Yeah, you remember that one. So I had that. I don't know where I got it or how I got it or who gave it to me, but my dad, I was playing it and I was getting really into it. I must have been about 10 or 11. And my dad, like, I must have been like constantly playing it and was about to, I don't know, we were about to have dinner or something. And he got so angry with me that he took it and he threw it out. Like, we had little ventilator windows, he just threw it out the window. He was so angry with me. And I remember feeling, I don't think I was very connected to how I was feeling. I couldn't see how my behavior was changing at the time, but it was clearly different. And it was clearly as a result of this. So I don't even remember if I got that game back, but then it became super aware of how I was playing computer games. And then when we got our first computer and I started playing games on it and typing in stuff and all of that, it was like, no, 45 minutes. So how seeing my nephew play games for hours and interact with people online and play Fortnite and hearing about people play games for hours, being a gamer, even colleagues of mine, the same age, contemporaries of mine, playing, I don't know, Zelda for hours. I just never quite got into playing games for hours. I'd play, maximum was like Wii tennis for a couple of hours in the summer holidays and getting super good at it. But I never really, and now of course the stories in games are so involved. I'll play Minecraft for like a couple of hours and that'll be it. But when I hear about people playing games for hours, and what was that game you've got? Last of Us 2.
Oh yeah, The Last of Us. I don't have The Last of Us 2. That one just came out, I think. And I only bought The Last of Us last year. It's been out for years and years. I picked it up for like £11
on a PS4.
On a PS4.
Because the PS5 has been released now, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, I mean, it's a fabulous game. It deserves the reputation, and I haven't clocked it. I haven't even picked it up in months and months and months.
But that takes hours to get into, surely, doesn't it?
I mean, the way the games are designed now, like they kind of on-ramp you.
On-ramp?
On-ramp.
I don't know what that means.
Like, there's a certain on-ramp where you're taught how to play the game.
Yeah.
That style game, that's very expansive and, especially with modern controls or controllers that have multiple buttons with multiple functions. Like, you can't, it's not like, in the days of the NES where you go, oh, okay, A is jump and B is run.
This puts me off a lot of modern games. I can't be asked to learn. I just can't be bothered.
So what they do is they give you like a very, very simple task. It's like look around, you learn where the look is, you learn how to move, you learn, this button to pick up an object or this button to shoot a gun or, whatever it happens to be. And it takes you through step by step, each control, each command that you'll need to control your character. And then the technical capacity, not capacity, that's the wrong word. The
ability?
Say again?
Ability.
No. What's involved technically in each stage of the game grows with each new action that you're taught until you've got like the whole, like at least the first principles.
You've learned all the basic moves.
You've learned the basic moves. You've learned the first principles of like, this is how I switch ammunition, switch gun or reload ammunition or whatever it is. And then it doesn't matter which new gun you pick up. how to switch to it, you know how to reload it, you know how to like they can stop teaching at that point. You've been down the on ramp, you've merged with traffic, and now you're going at full speed.
Okay, I see.
Right, games take you down an on ramp to teach you the game until you're like fully properly in the game without being like an infant anymore, an infant player, you know,
a noob.
Exactly, a noob. That's how I am with like Call of Duty and things like that. Like
a noob.
I can't play. I'm terrible. I mean, I've never particularly liked even as far back as like Doom or Wolfenstein. Right, you remember that?
I love Wolfenstein. I did love Wolfenstein.
I mean, I did enjoy Wolfenstein, but like, you know, by the time we got to say
Quake, Doom, the big ones,
I
never played it.
Right,
never played it.
I couldn't get into it. Like, you know, because if you're not good, you're terrible.
Davina's brothers played that.
You know, so something like Call of Duty or whatever the other ones are that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Fortnite.
Yeah, you get dropped into a location and then you like boom, you're shot.
Yeah. Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah, Battlefront. There you go. Yeah. Like I've got Star Wars Battlefront. I don't play it much because I'm awful at it. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I'm way more a platform guy. Like, you know, give me Mario 3 any day of the week. Mario 1. Give me Super Mario Brothers any day of the week.
I really
you remember when we went to that
Bomberman?
Oh, Bomberman! Oh my god, I love Bomberman.
Or such an amazing multiplayer game. Mario Kart, brilliant. Yeah,
I love genius.
That's what I think Nintendo, the whole social gaming thing, I think really works. Like, but I mean, I love mine.
God, Bomberman was fabulous.
It's such a great, yeah.
You ever played it with like, I can't. What could you get? I think you could get 8 people in it.
So we play it with on a Switch now with nephews, cousins, all together. We'll have like 6.
It was huge.
6 of us playing it. It's such a great game.
There was a game. I can't remember what it was now. I'm trying to think. There was
Oscar says Doom is great.
Yeah, Doom is great. Wolfenstein was better. You got to shoot Nazis. There was a game. It must have been
multiplayer
car racing game. I was like Micro Machines. Micro Machines?
I do remember it.
Right, I think that was on the Mega Drive. Oh, I can't.
You sure it wasn't the PS2 or something?
It might have been the PS2 actually, but there was like one of the early iterations of Micro Machines. You could play multiplayer with 4 people, right? 4 people, 4 pads.
Mm-hmm.
You could also do 8 people with 4 pads, and you'd have to share
2 halves of the pad. Yeah.
You know, and we would have some epic races.
Yeah.
You know, and it was fabulous.
It's a lot of fun. It was
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Bomberman is still has that for me because but that's simple, straightforward games. It doesn't get complicated.
Yeah.
And Tetris. So Davina is amazing at Tetris. Sorry?
No person in Tetris, no reason for being there. You don't need story.
True. And she's amazing at it. She's so good at it. She'll start on her phone on like level 17, something. Unbelievable. Actually, this is another segue to mental health thing. Tim Ferriss did a podcast with Jane somebody. McGonagall. Reality is Broken book. Is it Reality is Broken? Is that the book?
That one.
Super better. Yeah. 10 minutes of Tetris to reset the brain.
Yeah.
There's a study that's referred to in the psychology textbook at A-level about playing Tetris can help PTSD.
I went to see her talk a few years ago. Were you there? No,
I don't think I was there.
Who did I go with? Willem, Graham?
Probably Willem.
How
come I didn't go? How come?
I can't imagine we excluded you. Probably weren't available. It was good. It was great, actually. Really enjoyed her talk. It's worth watching.
I'll probably have a look at that. There's computer games definitely do link to brain development in some way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
that's where I got this. I forgot.
You've got a signed copy.
Yeah.
What does it say on it? That's quite cool.
Adam, play with purpose.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. Oh, interestingly, it was on my birthday. I'd forgotten that. It's dated on my birthday.
Hey, did you read that book? Is it worth reading?
I've skimmed it. I haven't read it. I think it is worth reading. It's just not been a high priority book for me. Like I'm not a huge gamer, so I'm not like, oh, I really want to read a book about gaming. I've listened, like you, I've listened to some interviews with her. I've obviously been to see her speak, where she kind of lays out her whole theory of gaming and how she like healed herself.
From smacking her head on a cupboard.
Yeah. So I haven't felt the need to go and read the book.
Have you read Ready Player One?
No, the thing that the Spielberg movie is based on.
So I've seen the film, and
I've seen half of the film.
I enjoyed it, but multiple people have said to me the book is way better.
Well, I should hope so, because the first half of the movie I didn't think was very good. And I only watched half because my internet died. Like, you know, internet went down that evening, or power cut or something, I forget. And the first half of the movie hadn't grabbed me enough to ever go back and watch it.
Ah. Well, one of my benchmarks for how good a movie is does Davina fall asleep? And she didn't.
It's a good benchmark.
So it seems to be a pretty good film. This I do this whole computer game thing. I don't know. Well, I've been seeing adverts for, I think it's the Oculus 2. I don't know what it is. And a Star Wars game. It looks really cool. It looks really.
You're going to get it just for that.
No, I don't think I get it just for that. I've still got that other augmented reality thing that I've played around with a few times, but not that much. That was impressive. The problem is, I kept my old phone because my new phone can't be used in the headset. So I have to charge up my old phone and use my old phone in it. And I think that's part of the problem with tech. It just gets outdated so fast. That was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
4 years ago?
Wow, that was your 40th. No, that must have been 7 years ago.
Ah, because I'm 47, of course, in
Still
4 years.
No,
my wife's in her
Davina gave you that augmented reality Star Wars thing for your 40th, right?
It was a Christmas present, actually.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know, technology that I was actually going through an article about PlayStation 5 from The Economist in a business lesson about marketing and stuff. And mobile streamed gaming is coming, but the technology isn't quite fast enough. So being able to play high quality games live very fast on any device. So it'd be very interesting to see where computer games goes.
I mean, I don't even love online gaming. I'm kind of much happier just like playing something like The Last of Us just by myself. I don't need or even particularly want that community online gaming thing. Like,
that might be because of the whole analog child, digital adult. You got your sense of community from other things, not from computers.
Yeah. And also, so I think that you might be right that I have my community somewhere else, like in the real world, IRL. But also, I think there's probably some experience of what gaming is from being a child.
Okay. Yep.
You know, it's I either play it by myself or player 1 and player 2. You know, and we'll take turns Like I'll play Super Mario until I die, and then I'll give the control to you, and then you go. Or whatever it is. You
Or
remember?
the multiplayer game.
Yeah,
Oh, have you got a piece of?
But you're all. My cat's coming in.
Oh, okay.
Or you're all there in the same room, and it's
Yeah.
like it's actually a social thing.
Yeah. Social gaming. Nintendo invented it.
Yeah.
And did a really good job of it with the Wii. I can't even see the cat against your jumper.
I know. I'll wear a white t-shirt next time.
Wow. It is 9:05.
Is it?
Yeah.
There's cat.
Oh yeah. Can see his eyes now. Her eyes. Her?
Her.
Her eyes.
Yeah.
Is that which one's that?
This is Echo.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing. Can't see it at all.
She's off camera now, just her tail. The other one's been asleep on the chair this whole time.
All right. I had no idea. So we started off by saying we talk about men, talked about the brain, talked about a bit about mental health and gaming, and we've gone into computer games and a bit of a nostalgia trip.
Via Russell Brand.
Russell Brand.
And Jane McGonigal.
It
was lovely. It's worth saying.
What was your favourite computer game to play when you were young? And on what platform? Do you have a favourite?
I mean, it depends on at what stage or phase. I'd say probably Super Mario Brothers. Do you remember when we went to that Barbican exhibition, the history of gaming? And I was like, it was me, you, and Graham, right? Or was it just me and you? No, it was just me and you.
No, Davina was there.
Oh, that's right. It was me, you, and Davina.
Because we played Bomberman.
Yeah, that's right. So at some point we hit Super Mario Brothers. I was like, I'll join you in a minute. And I just stood there for what, like 12 minutes?
Well, I watched you. I watched you.
It.
Yeah, you did. I watched you like do the shortcut where you go up across the top, run across like the whole thing, go into the right pipe, and then all of that. Yeah. Yeah, I watched you there.
Yeah, go from World 1 to World 4, World 4 to World 8, and then Bowser and you're done.
Doesn't that just take the fun out of it?
Not when it's locked in a box and no one can reset it, because it gets harder once you've clocked it, because all the little Goombas, I think they're called Goombas, turn into something else after you've clocked it. They turn into like these like beetles with shells, so you can't like jump on. They go faster. So anyone else that came along after us to go, oh wow, Super Mario Brothers, they'd be like, oh.
It would have been super hard. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I was able to clock it in about 12 minutes.
You did. That's true. You did. There is a great video from years ago. I don't know if it's still on YouTube. Someone has taken the entire experience of playing Super Mario and projected it onto a pavement. So you can watch them playing it and it moves along the pavement.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really cool. Because I never had a console. I only played on my friend's console.
Right.
And he had a NES and then a SNES. So Street Fighter 2 became the game we play a lot.
Yeah.
But I played on my Amstrad CPC 464, 64K of memory. Wow. Such a lot of memory. And I played a lot of puzzle games, but there was a game my sister and I used to play called Target Renegade.
Oh, I don't know that.
And it's a like Dragon Ninja. It's like that kind of beat 'em up game.
Right.
With really like 8-bit graphics, really bad 8-bit music. And we loved it.
I'm kind of thinking Altered Beast.
Yeah. That kind of I keep referring, it looked like a flattened Minecraft, to be honest. And you'd move around and like then you'd do jump kicks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and my friend
maybe not Altered Beast. Maybe it was more like, oh, what was that other one?
Altered Beast was not like Shinobi or anything like that. It was a more standard beat 'em up. It wasn't any
Okay.
kind of
Okay, I'm trying to think
What
that the
game?
beat 'em up. The name is slipping my mind.
Final Fight
No, it could be Final Fight. Yeah.
or I don't know. You might be able to know what you're thinking of, but that game, my sister and I played a lot,
Yeah.
and it's those. You look at that and you think, oh, it looks ridiculous. It doesn't look very convincing, but it's a lot of fun to play.
If I fast forward to like at another phase, so kind of jump, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. Metal Gear Solid,
Okay.
which was in its early days then, was outstanding on the PlayStation, on the first PlayStation.
PS1. Oh, wow.
On the PS1. It was outstanding. Got
Never
really
had a PS1.
that. Thought that was a brilliant game.
Had a PS2, but that was after I was.
Yes.
It might have been after I was married.
God, maybe it was on PS2. I'm sure it was on the PS1. Sure, it was
What about GTA?
GTA.
The initial
The
one.
original
where you was
GTA was exactly. It was bird's eye view. That was fabulous. That was really great, and in many ways it was like superior to the I don't know, Vice City or whatever, which is a great game, and I really enjoy that. Really enjoyed GTA Vice City.
That was 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
San Andreas was 3. That was the one where it went like 3D, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the original was, I mean, that really pushed the boundaries.
Yeah.
Like in the opening moments, it was like, okay, can I run over a string of Hare Krishnas and get bonus points for running, for like how many of them you're able to run over?
Oh God, that was PS2.
But it was yeah, I guess.
I think
PS1 maybe.
Must have been PS1.
I think it might have been PS1. But it really pushed the boundaries of like what was, not because you got to run over Hare Krishnas, and not saying anything against Hare Krishnas in any way, shape, or form, but it was really pushing the taboos, pushing things that were taboo into not being so taboo. Yeah, and it got a lot of flack. There were a lot of interesting pieces written about how that was really going to be the end of the world, for young people, because they were going to be playing that game that was, all about wreaking havoc.
And this is what, 25 years ago? My friend
maybe.
My friend Cy had it, and I remember going around his house, being around his house, and him having it, and it was the bird's eye view one.
Yep. Could be 25 years ago.
I don't know if it was that long.
23 years ago, like we're
20 something. It's 20 something.
A couple of decades plus.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that Nevermind is going to be 30 years old next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I listened to a little bit of that the other day. Spotify did a good job, and doesn't always do a good job, but I've told you before how my Spotify account is just a mess, right?
Because of your son, Alvy, yes.
Well, it's not just because of him. It's like, it's historical, because I used to use Spotify for all my students. So I'd like put together playlists of my students' music for their routines and their shows and stuff like that, which could be anything from jazz to
the Social Network soundtrack
to like Adele to like whatever. And it's not like, but it would often be things that I wouldn't automatically listen to, and I wouldn't add to a playlist, and I wouldn't necessarily have added to the algorithm in quite the same way.
Oh wow.
And then there was all of Albie growing up, which ended up being like a lot of lullabies. Although I did manage to do things like, there's a thing called
I remember you playing it to us. I can't remember what it's called.
God, I can't remember what it's called either.
Is it like rock and roll, not rock style lullabies?
No, it's maybe
Rockabye.
Rockabye Baby or something like that.
Hmm.
Might be Rockabye Baby. I'll have to check, but it's modern music done as lullabies. So you get the whole of like Nevermind as plinky 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 plink, you know. And they did like Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins, and you could also get like the Beatles and all sorts. So I started like with all these things that I liked, our generation, golden oldies, like whatever, and would just play that and plinky 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 plink.
So your
It was great.
Spotify is
But
completely
my
messed up.
Spotify is a mess, and now it's filled with Frozen. Let it go, let it go.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Understandable.
The Frozen soundtrack has actually grown on me quite a lot.
I think I've seen it once.
It's actually an incredibly good movie.
I didn't think it was as good as Lion King. I mean, it was good.
I mean, again, you're talking decades apart. And
I know, but
like the Lion King, I don't know, Disney had like a dark ages where they didn't put out anything good for like animation wise, right? Just
yeah.
animations, like they had the classics, your Cinderellas and your Snow Whites and Jungle Books and things like that. And then there were like these dark, bleak years where there was nothing really good.
Robin Hood,
Fun, but like not a
Lady and the
classic.
Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp, which I think was actually probably after Lady and the Tramp, you ended up with things like the Aristocats.
Is that not good? I haven't seen it.
No, I don't regard it as good.
Okay.
Like The Little Mermaid, meh. It's not a Jungle Book.
101 Dalmatians? Was that
Again,
earlier?
bit older, yeah.
Okay. Little Mermaid then, was that the turning
I think
point?
there were years and years and years and years where they didn't put out much that was really good. And then The Lion King came out and it was like, suddenly something good again.
So many. Well, it's got the whole hero's journey thing in it. Actually, maybe we should talk about hero's journey next week.
Oh, let's try and remember to do that next week.
Hero's journey.
Yeah.
We can join the dots forward on the hero's journey. It's just an excuse to talk about Star Wars and how terrible Harry Potter is, and how it ripped off Star Wars. Someone in my year 11 class today said they'd not seen Harry Potter but preferred Star Wars. He said Star Wars is his Harry Potter.
Generational, hey.
He's 15.
I mean, I don't have much to say about Harry Potter. I've not read the books. I've seen some of the movies, like maybe even four movies, something like that. I find them all very average, and I'm pretty sure that the books have to be pretty average to appeal to so many people. Like they've just got to be middle of the road.
Well, let's save this for next week.
Go on, that's a preview then. We'll start there.
The hero's journey. Next week.
It's your job to remember it.
I'll remember it. Oscar said Harry Potter is so boring. Oscar, I think, was watching us whilst playing a game of Crash Bandicoot or something.
Was that the first thing you said in like an hour?
Well, he said Doom is great, Crash Bandicoot is legendary, and then he just said Harry Potter's boring. I never played Crash Bandicoot, but
no, but what a great character.
I didn't even know what it is. What is it? It's a Bandicoot.
It's Bandicoot.
Orange Bandicoot.
Crash.
And he breaks stuff?
So I don't know, never played it.
Oh, I thought you did.
It's like one of those random cartoon characters that you know but don't really know. A bit like Echo the Dolphin.
Don't know who Echo the Dolphin is.
Do you not remember Echo the Dolphin? It was like the environmentalist game. In like, I don't know, 1995, probably on the Mega Drive.
I just remember Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, but Sonic's like the classic,
And then also
Sonic and.
But I like the cartoons, like Captain N, the Games Master. Remember that?
Yes, with
Mega Man. Link was in it.
Mega Man was a great game. The original Mega Man on the NES. Ooh,
Never
that was
played it.
great.
Never played it.
Metroid, the original Metroid. Ooh,
You could probably get ports and play. I could probably play it online now, couldn't I? In fact, I
Metroid
might
was
try
great.
that.
All those
I'll try.
seasons. Maybe
I'm gonna-
that's how I ended up an acrobat, playing too much Metroid
And Pac-Man, of course.
and Pac-Man.
Cool. So next week, Hero's Journey.
Yeah. Starting with Pac-Man.
Starting with Harry Potter. Harry Pac-Man.
Harry Pac-Man.
Harry Pac-Man. Great. So I will see you next Tuesday. Oscar leaves the question. Anyone who watches this after the fact leaves a question. And feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want. But really, sponsor me. I'm at 780 quid now.
You can sponsor me if you want, but sponsor him.
Sponsor us both. Sponsor the team as one of the teachers did at school.
Yeah. Will you put a link in there for us?
I will. I've got the link as my name here to my sponsorship.
Oh, yeah.
mobro.co/James76.
I think mine's going to be mobro.co/circusboy1, number 1.
You have to check it. Great. See you next Tuesday.
You can find me through that link there.
Probably could.
We're in the same team.
Whoa. Yeah, but then it says donate to me. You have to go to the team, and
you have to go to James, and then you go to the team, and then you go to me. So you got to do you got to click twice.
3 times.
Well, after that, after going to his page, you got to click. You got to do 2 more clicks.
Too much effort when there's a big blue donate button on mine.
Yeah. Well, do that, and then do 2 more clicks and donate again.
True. Stop men dying so young.
3 out of 4 suicides are guys.
Because
being suicidal is a mental health issue, and if that isn't dealt with early and well, suicide. Another guy not on the planet, another dad, another brother, another son.
Because sometimes men feel they can't talk about how they feel. That's my
full circle.
And we're full circle.
See you next Tuesday.
Long way round. Join the dots forward. See you next Tuesday.